To have a disaster or an oil spill or a pipe break, it could be, the end for a lot of things.
There is a more than 4-mile twin oil and gas pipeline that runs under the surface of the Straits of Mackinac. It's been there since 1953. For many, that's a big concern. Enbridge Line 5 has been the subject of several town hall meetings.
It is a target of criticism by environmental groups. Today, Enbridge Energy reached a $75 million settlement with the state after a 2010 oil spill in the Kalamazoo River. That spill poured 800,000 gallons of crude into the Kalamazoo River. 9 and 10's Adam Bartlemay has a special report on what's being done to make sure the same thing doesn't happen in the Straits.
It's part of a pipeline that carries light crude oil and natural gas liquids from Superior, Wisconsin to Sarnia, Ontario. Many refer to it as the pipeline, but what's actually under the Straits are two 20-inch pipes that run just to the west of the Mackinac Bridge. The safety of those lines has been under intense scrutiny since 2010's Enbridge spill disaster downstate near Marshall.
Took them 17 hours to respond, and it resulted in 1 million gallons of heavy crude oil tar sands being spilled along a 35-mile stretch of the Kalamazoo River.
The fear is something similar could happen in the Straits, as demonstrated in this simulation video provided by the University of Michigan.
Imagine what a catastrophic spill like that would result in the middle of the Great Lakes, in the heart.
Liz Kirkwood is the executive director of Traverse City-based For Love of Water. She says that kind of scenario would be disastrous not only to the ecosystem, but also to the people who make a living in the area.
There would be no water. It would cut off all ferry service. It would literally decimate the economy of northern Michigan.
Chris Shepler, who runs Shepler's Mackinac Island Ferry, agrees.
When tourism is such a big part of what we do here in our state, and recreation as well, it would be a catastrophe.
He wants assurances from the state and from Enbridge things are being done to keep Line 5 spill-free.
To make sure that this thing there's no chance that anything is going to happen, and to make sure that we don't have an incident like we had in Kalamazoo.
Jason Mancham, a community relations manager with Enbridge, says the company's priority is the safe operation of Line 5.
It has been incident-free over the 60 years. We monitor the line via our control center with humans sitting monitoring that line every inch of the pipeline, plus we have a computer system as well that can alert an alarm to shut down the line if there's any sort of abnormality that we may need to go out and investigate.
He says the company has assets in place on both sides of the Straits ready to take action if needed, and they constantly practice for what he calls an unlikely occurrence.
We have a response tactical plan that is reviewed and approved by the U.S. Coast Guard.
Stephen Keck is a contingency preparedness specialist with the U.S. Coast Guard. He says they would also respond immediately.
If it's a teaspoon or 100,000 gallons, the Coast Guards are going to respond to it in the same manner. We practice that, to respond in that manner, and that's how we're going to respond regardless of the size of the spill.
Mancham says the condition of the actual steel on the pipes is as good now as it was when it was built in the 1950s.
The mechanical components that really help it run, that push the product through the pipe, that is being continuously replaced and with new technology and new pieces.
Despite the preparedness and assurances of safety, environmental groups are not satisfied with the information the public can access about Line 5. They say they're not getting the same data as state and federal regulatory agencies.
This is a huge issue, and the public deserves to know.
Enbridge says they have been forthcoming by holding town hall meetings and providing information to anyone who wants to know.
We're more than happy to sit down with folks and go through our safety and inspection data.
But for some environmentalists, that's not enough. They want the pipelines in the Straits to disappear altogether.
A decommissioning of a 62-year-old infrastructure that will fail. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Last year, the state set up a task force to investigate the pipeline and look at Michigan's preparedness for spills. A report is expected sometime later this year.